Today on the news and why it matters, the latest in the 2020 race, who's dropped out, who is rising, and who has qualified for the debates with his own money.
Who cares?
Also that. Got a lot coming up. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Glenn Beck himself, the one and only, Stubergear, and Rob Eno, Blaze media critic. Rob Eno, what?
There's several Stubergears. Why am I not the one and only?
Well, I mean, I don't know. No. I haven't checked.
In
so I don't
France, probably.
Yeah, probably a lot of them in France.
Yeah, they probably all hate America.
Got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. So I guess I should just turn to you and say thank you to you, Glenn.
Yes. Real Estate Agents is not a necessarily just a sponsor on the show. It's my company. And it was born out of frustration of me just happening to work with the 500 best real estate agents in the country, according to the Wall Street Journal. And I was meeting with them and doing some work with them, and I'm like, okay, so how do I know? How does the average person know? Well, I learned, they taught me a lot, and I was like, oh, well, can I just like recommend you, or can I use that to find people that I could recommend? Absolutely. So we just put this together, and all it is we're just sending you to the person who is the best at selling or helping you buy a home for the least amount of money when you're buying and the most amount of money when you're selling. It's realestateagentsitrust.com. Go there now.
Hey, did I tell you that I actually used it?
Really?
Yeah, I did. And so we did. We filled out the form, and they called us. He called us at 8 o'clock at night. It was in 10 minutes. 8 o'clock at night. I was like,
it's one of the things we want to make sure that everybody knows we're serious, and we try to call you back in like 10 minutes.
So it's been a wonderful experience for us. All right, so Kamala Harris, another one bites the dust. She has announced today she is suspending her presidential campaign. She wrote an article on Medium that she tweeted out. She said, "I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign. And as the campaign has gone on, it's become harder and harder to raise the money we need to compete. And I want to be clear, although I am no longer running for president, I will do everything in my power to defeat Donald Trump and fight for the future of our country and the best of who we are." Now, this, of course, took place, a couple days after we heard that one of her top aides jumped ship and went to Bloomberg?
Bloomberg, yeah.
Which was not a good look.
That's why.
Not a good look at all.
That's why she said, "I'm not a billionaire." She's taking a dig right at him.
Yeah.
He's taking her people because he's got tons of money. And as much as these people in Washington say they care about the issues, they care about money. A lot of money flows through these campaigns. Just the Bloomberg campaign by itself is probably rescuing how many TV stations, how many radio stations, how many newspapers across the country, dumping money. He's already spent more than anyone else in several different ad categories.
He's been what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, 2
weeks?
Yeah, I was back in Massachusetts for the Thanksgiving weekend, and we get the New Hampshire and Massachusetts TV stations that do the New Hampshire primary stuff. All I saw was Bloomberg. Every second, it was just Bloomberg, Bloomberg, Bloomberg. So
had she qualified for the next debate, Stu? Do you know?
I believe she had, yes.
She had,
which is interesting because now, when you look at the qualifiers for the next debate, it's only white people. This is the Democratic Party with all this diversity, and now there are no people of color on the next stage of the next debate, at least at this point.
Women?
Elizabeth Warren. Yep, she'll be up there.
What about Tulsi?
Tulsi has not qualified yet. She would break both of those barriers.
And I did read something from one of her campaign people who said that they were not counting one particular poll that would have gotten her qualified.
I mean, Gabbard's got a good argument here, I think. I mean, they really are doing whatever they can to keep her out of the debates. She had 6% in one poll, which is, again, 6% doesn't seem all that impressive, but there's a lot of people at 0 and 1.
Well, when there's a million candidates, 6% is a lot.
And Tulsi, I mean, the Democrats just don't get it. They don't get it. I think if they run one of these socialists, it's going to be a Mondale Reagan moment. They're not connecting with people. I've been watching this, and you'll see them. They'll all go up, and they'll spike, and then they'll go spike, and then they'll spike. And they one by one, they're dead. What it is shoe shopping with a woman. They're walking over and they're like, oh, this shoe looks wonderful. And you're like, they're not going to buy that shoe. You're not going to buy that shoe. Oh, I love that shoe. And then they put the shoe on and then they walk around with it and they're like, it's killing me. And they take it off. They're like, oh, that's a nice shoe. They're just trying on all the shoes. There's not a shoe there that's going to make your feet feel good. Okay, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, what was it, September, when she had her moment in the debate and she went after Joe Biden and she got the uptick in the polls?
September? Geez, it seems like forever ago.
I know. I think it was September. And she went from that, and now all of a sudden it's the beginning of the December.
I thought it was a little earlier than that, but
Was
I mean,
it?
it all matches together for sure. It's funny, when we started out at the beginning of the year and talking about what candidate can kind of be a dark horse that
Thought she would be it.
can come out of that
I
field
remember
and make
this
a run.
conversation,
Yeah,
yeah.
and can make a run at it. And she did. Like, she did make a run at this and fell apart. I was looking back at some of the old analysis that we had posted about this, because I was doing these campaign write-ups at the time. And I think this kind of played out. I think it holds up pretty well. The difference between Warren and Harris is notable. The candidates are nearly tied in most polls, but much of the strength of Harris is based on one spectacular moment, the moment you're talking about. Warren, alternatively, seems to have a lower ceiling but a stronger foundation. At some point, Harris has to clean up her mess of a policy package, which includes supporting a Bernie-style Medicare for all without the Bernie-style middle-class tax hikes, a combination that even the left admits makes no sense. Quotes like this still feel way too accurate. She's the easy-to-listen-to, poorly defined identity candidate. This needs to be sorted out eventually if she's actually going to win. I think that holds up pretty well, and what's fascinating about it is it holds up pretty well on Warren too. She had the same problem, the Medicare for all with no middle class tax cuts, and the same thing happened to her. I mean, this has been death to the candidates who have tried to do it. It doesn't work. At least Bernie's honest about it, but he really can't expand past his base. And Warren and Sanders both went down the tubes, at least partially because of this. That being said, if I'm Kamala Harris, I don't care if I'm out of money. Just let everybody go, sit at home, do your normal job, go on TV as much as you can, and hope Biden drops out of the race and maybe you can make another run. I don't understand why you go all the way to December and bail on this thing.
Qualify for the next debate
yeah.
and then bail. It does seem really weird.
Maybe she's just tired.
I have a different take on what people are looking for, and over the weekend I saw a documentary from HBO, and it was called Very Ralph, and it comes from a phrase of, oh, that's very, very Ralph Lauren. And when you look at this is Ralph Lauren. When you look at Ralph Lauren, you just know it's Ralph Lauren, and it's America. Mm-hmm. And they talked about his advertising campaigns, and as I'm watching this documentary, I thought, he's the only entity, person, anything that has captured the spirit of America, and it's proud. Think of any other brand that says, this is who we are, that Reagan, Morning in America kind of thing. That's Ralph Lauren. Mm-hmm. That is a very popular brand in America, and it still has the flag. And it's not just people in the, podunk villages out in the middle of nowhere that's wearing it. The Democrats have divorced themselves from all of that imagery, all of that pride, all of it is gone. And you're left with corruption or a new system that you don't like. Donald Trump will win again because he's the only one articulating Make America Great Again. It's why Tulsi could have made an impact with a lot of the swing voters, because you may not like her policies at all, which I don't, but she didn't hate America.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. In other 2020 news, Rob, I want to get your take on this. Mike Bloomberg, he announced a week ago, maybe? Yeah. I don't even think it's been a week.
I don't think it's been a week.
A new Hill-Harris poll released just this week found that he is coming in the race ahead of all but 4 of the other candidates. So he has 6% of the Democratic vote already.
He's a new shoe.
He is. That's it. So that's all you have to do is just enter.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that 6% gets you ahead of all the other candidates except for 4.
That's crazy.
That's the margin of error in a lot of polls.
Well, and it's got to be the new shoe because, as we've talked about on the show, he says crazy things.
Absolutely insane.
So did Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, praising China,
That was the one that got me, right? Was the praise of China. They're not a dictatorship. But he's had a history of, at Bloomberg, spiking stories that would have been critical of China because he has business interests in China.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Michael Bloomberg, and I've had friends that have said this, and I've looked at some stuff, I don't think Michael Bloomberg is really running for president. I think Michael Bloomberg is running a super PAC through a presidential campaign so that he can get on TV personally and attack Donald Trump. All of his ads, like I watched all of his ads focus on Trump. They have Trump in weird poses, they have Trump in all of those things. You know, when I was home this weekend, like I said, in New England, that's all I saw. It's not who he can be, it's just attacking Donald Trump, and he's trying to take down Donald Trump for the rest of the field.
But he's in an interesting place because Donald Trump's, his MO is that he's a billionaire and he can write his own checks and he doesn't care. Same thing here. Donald Trump says crazy things, so does Michael Bloomberg. And it's strange because you have two billionaires from New York with a lot of the same policies, at least in New York, that are running against each other. And where is the Democrat in all of that? Where?
Well, look, Bloomberg on guns, Bloomberg on the climate. I mean, we're talking an extremist on things like this. It's a weird vibe, though. It doesn't seem to fit.
Old, white, billionaire.
Old white guy, old white billionaire, ninth richest guy on the planet. It's a weird fit for the Democrats. I think, though, I'm pretty dismissive of it, I think, generally speaking. I mean, obviously, he could just start a super PAC and run ads, but he would not get the rates because they can charge the super PAC a lot higher rates, so you get a better, if that's true, it's a smart approach by Bloomberg. Though I tend to think that he has a big enough ego that he actually does want to win this thing. We talked about this, I think, a little bit, maybe a couple weeks ago. There is a weird thing that goes on here with him skipping the first 4 states, which everyone says, well, why, you can't do that. You can't skip the first 4 states. Well, he's running essentially an unopposed campaign on Super Tuesday, where they are going to see almost exclusively ads from Michael Bloomberg for the next month and a half until these other first states go by. So he's going to be able to run up some numbers, I think, in those states. It's an interesting idea if he can get and hang around at 8, 10% in some of these states. He can outlast everybody. If let's say a Warren or a Bernie rises to the top of that ticket, he can outlast everybody else. If Biden falls off, he could be the guy that's the alternative to the socialist, and that is a position that can win in the Democratic Party. I mean,
they'd head towards a brokered convention if it was Donald Trump, Ted Cruz before Ted lost whatever state that was that last state. If he can make it all the way, it could be a brokered convention, and they'll go with Bloomberg.
They'll go with Bloomberg over Sanders. I don't know about Warren, but they do it over Sanders.
They will.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a billionaire Democratic presidential candidates in the race, Tom Steyer spent more than $40 million of his own money to get the 200,000 donors that he needed to qualify for the next debate. So now he will also be joining them on the debate stage again because he got 5%, so he qualifies. So it's going to be an interesting.
I mean, Steyer has to be a little pissed off here. I mean, this was his shtick.
Yeah,
I'm a billionaire. He's going to come in and spend all this money.
I'm the self-loathing billionaire.
Yeah, I know. I think he spent $70 million of his own money so far, which was way more than the rest of the field had spent on ads. And Bloomberg's come in and done that in 2 weeks. I mean, and Bloomberg is
is a known quantity, and that's what hurts him. I mean, I lived under Mayor Bloomberg. It's a nightmare. Yeah. It's a progressive nightmare.
Before we go to break, we just wanted to give Kamala a proper send-off. Watch.
A presidential song for anyone. One Nation Under a Groove by Funkadelic. One nation under a groove, getting down just for the funk of it. Can I get it on the... Wow.
Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin told a group of reporters yesterday that politicians always engage in quid pro quo. You guys, come on, it's fine. She said, we always do this kind of quid pro quo. To be honest, we do it, but we do it for the national security interests of the United States, not for personal or political gain. Glenn, does that just make your head want to just explode hearing that?
No, she's just saying the truth.
Right.
She's saying the truth. Now, when you want to talk about the Clintons and personal gain, I think we could,
or the
Bidens, we can argue about that. But it's fascinating that they're finally at where the rest of America is. What's the problem with this again? What's the problem? As long as you understand that you have missing money, $8 billion, there was something wrong going on, and there was fudging at the best during the campaign, it's absolutely in the national interest.
Yeah, the Trump campaign should hire her as a spokesperson to explain the issue.
I'm not sure she takes that. Takes that job.
I bet if they paid her enough, she would. But I mean, it's a situation where this is exactly what Trump should have been saying the entire time. Instead of trying to fight off that there was a quid pro quo, explain. Yes, there was a quid pro quo. It was because it was necessary and the right thing to do.
How does he do that now, though?
Yeah. No,
he's come out so many times and said there's no quid pro quo.
He's abandoned so many positions. I mean, Trump, look, one thing you can admire about Trump is saying, look, he just doesn't care. Like, if what he said, I mean, look at Kim Jong-un, right? It's like, okay, well, we're going to bomb you into kingdom come. Wait, now we're best friends. Like, he just doesn't care about that stuff. So I think he could just change it. And I think he should change earlier. The earlier, the better.
And quid pro quo is the basis of foreign policy, right? It always has been. I mean, that is, there is a quid, there's a pro, there's a quo. If you do this, then we will give you this. France, if you don't put enough money in NATO, that's today what he's, Trump's doing in NATO. We're not going to help you do these other things. That's what foreign policy is it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Of course there's a quid pro quo.
Glenn, do you think that, I mean, you said the rest of America, she just got to where the rest of America is. Do you think that they're done with impeachment?
Yeah, I think if you look at the ratings, look at what people are talking about. When you were at Thanksgiving, how many of us had the conversation about the impeachment? This is a pretty big deal. Yeah. It never came up in my household.
Never came up either.
It's like everybody's just like done with it. They see it as merely political posturing, and that's not good. I asked Mike Lee just a few minutes ago, what is the gain? Can you see a gain from the Democrats? He couldn't see one. And if what he told me on the air is true, that even if there isn't a trial, he said that there are a couple of other Senate chair members that are going to call for investigations and call Charmella and all of the rest of them and say, what was really going on here? What's really happening here? That should chill to the bone the Democrats, because that people will pay attention to. If they are truly looking for answers, that people will pay attention to, and that will backfire on the Democrats like crazy.
Well, and Joe Biden specifically, I feel. They're just they've made the choice to throw Joe Biden to the wolves at the end of the day just to try to get Donald Trump, because at the end of this, if, what you're laying out in all of your Ukraine specials, we've got verifiable fact of, Joe Biden can't come out of this looking clean.
No, if they call Hunter Biden to testify, it'll be a bloodbath for the Democrats. And, I think we could very well be headed towards a brokered convention. And that's where it could get scary, because that's when a Michelle Obama or an Oprah or a Tom Hanks could walk in.
Stu, what are your thoughts?
I think the idea of Hunter Biden having to go through a real testimony and pressure is actually the biggest worry for Joe Biden. There's a lot of things I'd say about Biden. I actually think he's a good dad, and I think he loves his kids, and I think he's gone through a lot in his family. And I think the thing that he struggles with even to get into this campaign was to say, crap, like my kids are going to, he knew this stuff. He knew the stuff you're talking about. He uncovered this before, you did or anybody else did. He was there. So he knew these questions were going to come. Who knows? I'm sure he had a conversation with his family like he did in 2016. Should I do this? They decided to pull the trigger on it, and now he's kind of paying the consequences. And when I say a good dad, I mean, I think he did things that he shouldn't have done. Kind of like, what's her face, Lori Loughlin? Isn't that the paying off the college thing? Like, it's that kind of good dad. I think she's a good mom. She loves her daughter. Yeah. You probably shouldn't be paying
smother a neighbor for the daughter.
Exactly.
But,
that's a good instinct.
Real love,
right, that's real love.
Did you see Hunter Biden, speaking of him, he had a court case. I saw this at theblaze.com.
Paternity.
Yeah, paternity. It was a case for the paternity thing for child support. He didn't show up, and he discharged his attorneys like right before the hearing.
Did he discharge them or did they leave? See, I had heard that they left. This is the stripper that he got pregnant.
Yes.
That he
while he was with the
while
new
he was
woman.
while he was with his brother's widow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
this guy is
it's like
you feel bad for him.
he's got like some really
he has deep issues.
He has demons. But it's absolutely crazy, right? I mean, he gets rid of the lawyers. Now they want 3 years of his tax returns. What happens if those come out in open court, and then all the Ukraine stuff shows up because that should
doesn't.
be, or doesn't. The more important thing is it doesn't.
Yeah.
These are all the things that that's
keeps
a really
Joe awake
big,
at night.
Yeah.
And say this for Hunter Biden. He was recently accused of doing crack at a strip club, but they said he was a good tipper.
Right. And other things which
cares about the
does
little,
not,
the
and
little
other
person.
things which cannot be said on the news and why it matters.
How long ago was that? This was just recently? Because he put in his court case for this paternity case that he had no income since May. Poor guy. He's starving on the streets.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a little while ago, so he may have still been raking in that taxpayer Burisma money, which, by the way, also happened, was very lately reported. What was that, $130 million that was routed from our taxpayer dollars to his company? I mean, it's an ugly situation. No corruption. No corruption.
None at all.
Conspiracy theories.
And then the Polish president was like, who was his former Polish president on the board of Burisma, was like, of course we hired Hunter Biden because he's Joe Biden's kid.
Of course.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Right.
We can all pretend, but I mean, it's hard to pretend a paternity test away.
Wouldn't you expect that from the Polish president to be involved in a conspiracy theory like that?
Oh yeah, because all those Polish presidents
are always involved in
the conspiracy
theories.
No credibility there.
No, none whatsoever. All right, back in a minute.
Other than he was a president.
Well, yeah, he was president of the country, and he was involved with the company that we're talking about.
Did you guys talk about the narwhal yesterday?
Hey, some people do Cyber Monday, but we here at Blaze Media, we do Cyber Week. So everything at Blaze Media shop is on sale, 15% off this week. You can go there, get whatever you would like that we have. We've got so much merchandise. Glenn is wearing his Hydra hat.
That's very cool.
Then we have jackets with the Hydra logo on it. Everyone will know that knows you're in the club.
It is. It's a very.
Everybody else will be like, "Why do you have an octopus on your hat?"
But it's a good conversation starter to let them know.
And you're wearing the Glenn Beck Colonel Sanders.
I am. I'm wearing the Colonel right here.
I'm serious. I want to do a Chick-fil-A commercial dressed as Colonel Sanders because I am pissed that they have asked all these other people that have to dress like Colonel Sanders and do all the makeup. I look like Colonel Sanders.
You've done all the hard work.
I've done all the hard work. I've eaten the fried chicken.
Go to shop.blazemedia.com. Get you 15% off. Load up for Christmas.